Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto become a jinkuriki and fall in love with Bleach Queen. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Love in Past, Present and Future. Chapter 1. Love to the New Future. This is my new story in which Ichigo and the gang die defeating Yhwach and get reborn in the Naruto world. The first chapter will cover until the end of the Wave arc. He series will start with the final battle versus Yhwach. Normal Biju, Zanpakuto Ichigo Pav. With my blade broken and the situation looking hopeless, I had two options: see what Orihime could do and try and find Aizen to see what he would do. Before I could walk over to Orihime, the Quincy side of my Zanpakuto spoke up saying, "There is a third option." I then asked him, what could defeat the Almighty? The spirit said, Zeno. He has been resting in your soul since he pierced you and restored your power. If you have to know, he is a Zanpakuto born from when my power merged with that of the entire 13 court guards. Every day he was been drawing power that you release. He has prevented your power from impacting the living world any further from the time your power came back till now. I then asked him, what do I need to do to win this? The Quincy said, you need to offer your life, but only your life won't be enough. From what I can feel from this man, as many people that are willing to die to win will be needed. The command is, I need the might you can give, might friends, Zeno. Say it and everyone your soul touched willing to give will help you. Before I had a chance to use the sword, I was GHT out of by Orihime's scream of, Kurosaki, I will fix your Zanpakuto. Before she, the Quincy King, severed her lower body from upper body. Right after that, Rukia and Renji arrived and the redhead said to me, Carrot Top, do you have a way to win? I replied to him, are you willing to die to use it? Rukia then spoke up and said, as Soul Reapers we pledged to do anything to preserve the cycle of death and rebirth, so we will do anything you need us to do to win. Use anything you need to win. That balance needs to be restored. I said, then went over to Rukia and kissed her and said, that was in case we don't make it, I love you. Then I heard Orihime say faintly, even if you choose her I will still love you. With that I said, I need the might you can give, might friends, Zeno. I then heard the voices of my friends and rivals in my head. First was Rukia, I love you too, idiot, and if this ended better maybe we could have been married, take everything you need. Then Orihime said, it is just like I said, take what you need, Kurosaki. Then Renji, Kurosaki, take what you need. After that I heard the voices of everybody else I knew saying the same. The final voice I heard was a new voice saying, hello Ichigo, I am Zeno. This attack we can only use once ever. The attack goes beyond final Getsuga Tensho. It is called Last Getsuga Tensho. I then asked, what will happen when I use it? He then said, you will see that man die. Then you will die and then you will wake up in the womb of a new woman. I can't tell you if you will be born again in this world of another world. Every Fae that will join you in this new world. I then used Zeno's blade to destroy Yhwach. After that the light left my eyes and I felt myself somewhere else in the dark with what felt like another body in the same space as myself. After thinking I could tell I was a baby again with another baby in the same womb as me, as in twins. After a few months I saw light again and heard a voice say, it's a girl. The first child is our daughter Kushina, what should we call her? Then a female voice, a woman with red hair, said, her hair looks just like a strawberry, so Ichigo. Then the male voice, a man, with blonde hair, it's not over, you have to keep pushing for the other baby. The woman, my new mother Kushina, said, I will shitty husband Minato. She then screamed loudly and out came another baby with blonde hair just like my father Minato, and the woman looked and said, Naruto. I then seemed to fall asleep until a masked man seemed to grab me until a blade and seemed like Zangetsu came out of my body and cut his wrist. That made him say, how could this girl use her that power after just being born? I fell asleep again and heard hollow Zangetsu's voice saying, you can finally hear me again. I then asked, do you know what world we are in? He said, I can't be sure, I can only tell you two things. First, there will be a third being joining your Quincy and he is a giant fox, and second, you are about to lose connect to your former life until for the next few years, How long I can't say for sure, but if you run into Rukia or any of your other old friends, it could bring everything back all at once. One last thing, have fun being a girl. Then the hollow's voice changed female and said, take a look, this is what you should be like in a few years, and I managed to save your mom but not your father, sorry. Then I blacked out. Rukia Pav. I was born a twin to a boy, as a boy myself. From what I could tell, I was now a boy with a twin brother. Our family grew up outside what was called the Land of Water in the Village of Snow. From what I could get from my mother, she was a member of a clan with ice powers. It made sense with my old life, I had some connection to ice, not sure how much I did. From W. Had I could tell my father had some kind of hate for people with these special bloodline powers. From hearing that, I knew to hide my powers from him. Then my brother figured out his powers and got my mother killed, and almost me as well, but for some reason a sword saved me. Then we were saved from hunger. A new man, a ninja, he saved us, feed us and trained us as ninjas. When the large man saw I had a sword that I could channel my ice jutsu through, he trained me to use it and made sure I was a little worse than him. Haku wanted to be tool for our savoir, but I had another reason to live. I would always have dreams of a girl with strawberry blonde hair. I lived for her and would keep living until I saw her. After a few years of wandering around the elemental nations, while patrolling alone, I met a dying man. He asked me, "What's your name, boy?" I asked, "Why do you need to know my name, mister?" He replied, "My name is Utakata. I am going to die soon and I am wondering if you are willing to carry a burden for me." My reply was, "My name is Rukia Yuki. What kind of burden do you need me to carry?" He began to say, "When I was your age, I was asked to keep a monster from getting out and causing problems. If you are willing to keep this monster from causing trouble, I will put it in you." I knew stopping this monster was a good idea and felt that taking it inside my body might help find the girl of my dreams. I then said, "If I am the only person, I will do it." He said to me, "Come close and take off your shirt, boy. I am not going to hurt you." I then asked him, "Utakata, what does this monster look like and what is its name?" He then said, "It is a giant slug with 6 tails and I never learned its name, everybody just called it Rokubi." I then did as he said and he drew markings in his blood on my stomach and then placed his right hand on the markings and said, "It's done, try and keep yourself alive." Then he died. After I made it back to Zabuza, he said, "What took you so long, boy?" I replied, "I took a monster in me. It is a slug with 6 tails." He said, "So you became a jinkuriki, boy?" I said, "I had no choice." The masked man replied, "If you can help take down Yagura and not go out of control, I guess I can use you." Before I could hear any more, I passed out. After many years, I had a mission with Zabuza in the land on waves, and there I saw that girl, Ichigo Pav. It turned out that day of my birth, a strange sword saved my mother from dying, but she lost the tailed beast inside her. When our late father, though his wife was dead, he chose to divide the 9 tails between my brother and I. Naruto got the yang and I got the yin. My mother took over title of 5th Hokage while she shared the duty of raising us with a nanny, named Anko Mitarashi. My mother adopted her and had her raise my brother and I after her teacher Orochimaru left her. She was like a big sister too, and we called her as our sister. She was also our first teacher, training us as ninjas before the academy did. It turned out the sword that saved my mother and I had some connection to me. When I first met Hinata, Hyuga convinced her to check and she confirmed that my chakra flowed through the sword. My next action was to ask my mother to find me a sword master to teach me. That teacher ended up being Hayate Gecko. The man was good at kenjutsu, but due to lung damage he coughed a lot and couldn't fight long. After a few days he called me a prodigy and said in a few years I would be better than him or even the 7 swordsmen of the mist. My body was developing well for my age with measurements of bust, waist, hips, 80, 59, 84 cm. One of my mother's first acts as Hokage was to institute new standards kunoichi, including fitness and dietary requirements, meaning that girls couldn't starve themselves to look good for guys, as well as couldn't grow their hair long until they pasted a few tests. The main outfit was something that seemed familiar to very samurai-like black outfit with wrapping over a bra. Me passing all of my mother's test was allowed to wear the outfit I wanted and have my hair as long as I wanted, and the nick I added to my mother's face gave me even more freedoms. My mother would rag about that scar and try to avenge it at time I looked weak. At one point I called her old man for some reason. That slash was pretty much luck, the sword coming to my hands and nicking my mother's cheek in the process. But since it was a part of me, my mother said it was me who did it. That same good luck made me younger by a minute. Brother want to fight me as well, but he wasn't even close to my mom's level or even near mine. Even more to my trouble, my mother made sure to let everybody in our class know I scarred to give me even more challengers. When my brother and I got to the test, our Mo there gave use strips of paper she called charka paper and made use channel our chakra into them. Naruto went first and his paper split in half and each half went damp, while mine paper split in 4 pieces with one part going damp, one part turning into dirt, one part wrinkling, and the last part burning. Our mother said, "Naruto, you got wind and water, makes sense with my water and your father's wind natures. But Ichigo, you are special, all 5 chakra natures is beyond rare. You better not have any of the sub-elements or your classmates will know strawberry." I said to her, "I thought my name mean number 1 guardian mother." My mom said, "I made sure to put both under your name registry. Both your names can mean food or other things." I said to her, "Mom, I didn't need to know how insane are. So why did you want us to know our chakra natures, Mom?" She then replied, "Since you two each have half the 9 tails, there is no way either of you could make normal clones, so I tested you two so you can figure out which kind of clone would be best for you two. Naruto can make either water or solid shadow clone, and Little Miss Strawberry can make any type of clone you want." I said, "Just teach us both solid shadow clones. I heard they can help with learning other jutsu faster." Our Hokage mother said, "Who told you that?" I replied, "Big sister Anko told me Kakashi and Itachi would make clones to cheat." Our mother said, "Well, I have to make sure she gets a punishment air mission for tell you so much." My mother said she would teach us the solid shadow clone jutsu under one condition: Naruto and or I managed to steal the scroll from vault. Naruto's approach was to test one of our teachers, Mizuki. This man would sabotage our grades, and if teachers for the pro Kushina faction didn't see them first, we would be placed worse in class. After getting Mizuki help steal the scroll only for it to be a dummy I left behind. That caused the two of us to pass my mother's test and get taught the jutsu and pass the academy exit exam. On the last day of class, we were paired up teams. Iruka said, "Team 7 Sakura Haruno, Sasaki Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki and Ichigo Uzumaki with Kakashi Hatake as Junin." I then asked him, "Why are 4 on a team? I thought teams were pairs of 3. He replied, "Madam Hokage places you on team with Kakashi as a promise and on a non-permanent basis." She didn't give me further details. I then remembered a dream I had of being paired with 2 people and hoped my mother would pair me with those people when I met them. A few hours after teams were selected, our teacher Kakashi came to the class and told the team to meet him first thing in the morning at training ground 7. I replied to him, "You better be there no later than an hour or I ruin the next Ika book." The masked man then asked me, "How do you know about the next book in the series?" I replied, "The old pervert left me a draft of early chapters to look over." Kakashi said, "Must have been how much you read. If you make sure to show me how you were with that sword that cut the Hokage, I will." I said, "Mom told you that as well." The masked man said, "It was the only way I agreed to take on an extra student." The next day I made sure to eat food for my teammates and prepare for the test. Once I stretched and gave some food to my teammates. My main job in the house was to make sure that Mom and Naruto ate more than just ramen and Anko ate more than just dango. The food I cooked seemed like it came from dream, like a girl taught me how to cook in those dreams. After 55 minutes of waiting, Kakashi came saying, "I made it faster than an So Ichigo, use your sword and no spoilers." The team was my loudmouth brother, brooding Sasuke, whose brother killed most of his clan, leaving only Sasuke's mother and a few branch members, and Sakura Haruno, child of leader of the civilian council that barely passed the exit exams and was placed on the team via political connections. The test was about as hard as anything my mother gave me, and Naruto and I didn't use teamwork at the last few minutes of we would have failed. After a month of D-rank missions doing busy work, we got our first C-rank mission in the Land of Waves. I knew Fr. Reading the papers and how close the land of waves was to the land of water, it was highly likely this mission could go up to as high as an A rank, and my mother knew that to test us. Our client was a drunk old man and half. A day into our travels the mission rank went up to be with 2 missing nin from the land of mist attacking us. Then went up again to A rank with a former member of the 7 swordsmen of the mist Zabuza Momochi. Defeating that ninja took the help of the entire team with me slicing off a piece of Zabuza's sword. At the very end of the fight I passed out after looking at one of He 2 hunter ninjas that came to collect Zabuza's body. After a few hours the rest of the team dragged Kakashi, who was passed out from chakra drain, and me who was passed out from the shock of seeing the hunter on the right. When I woke up I saw the face of a boy with hair a shade lighter than me that said, "You are awake, Ms. Uzumaki, and for some reason you seem familiar." Right after I woke up, Kakashi asked our client, "Do you know why we are fighting a swordsman of the mist?" The boy looking over me said, "My name is Sora and it is because of my ability. I was brought to this village by my older sister, and after she died I unlocked a strange bloodline ability to defeat the village." I then asked him, "What is this jutsu called?" The boy said, "It doesn't have a formal name but we called fairy release. I transform these hair pens into fairies and can use them to heal, shield and attack. The shield is strong enough that Goto felt he needed ninjas." I then said, "That is such a cool blood line. I haven't even figured out how to use chakra chains, all I did was get this sword. Sora, I feel like I know you for some reason. Is it the same for you, Sora?" Rukia Pav. In the middle of picking up Zabuza I felt weakness cover my body. I was pretty sure it had something to do with that girl. She either looked just like the girl I have been dreaming of or was the girl I was dreaming of in short L. Why after I made it to our base I passed out till a little before our younger brother revived Zabuza. Haku then said, "Why did you pass out? Do you think that girl is your special person?" My reply was, "I think seeing that girl made me pass out and that she is my special person. My heart is still beating so fast. I am going out to collect herbs." After wondering for a few hours I saw a girl SL eeping with a sword. Then I heard a female voice in my head saying, "Rukia, can you heard me?" I said in my head. I then asked, "Who are you or where are you?" The voice said, "Close your eyes." I did as she said and say, "My name is underscore." I saw an pure white woman with a white kimono. When she got to the name I couldn't hear it and she said, "I guess you haven't grown enough to hear my name yet. I have been a part of you every one of your lives, Rukia, and you knew this person in your last life in 2 different states." I asked, "Who are you and what do you mean by states?" The woman said, "I am both the spirit of your sword and part of your spirit. By states I mean your last life was almost 100 years and you met the girl before you in 2 different reincarnations. This person died in the middle of your last life and you met her again before you died. Meeting her woke me and woke up a similar spirit in her. That awakening affected your mind and body. If you want to, Rukia, I can let you talk to the slug that shares this space with me." I said, "Maybe later, White Sword Girl." Ichigo Pav. After we arrived back, Kakashi was mostly out of commission but he could do fundamental training. The first of that was tree walking. I would have liked to brush up on it but Naruto said, "Ichigo and I learned that already." The white-haired man then said, "Since I don't have the chakra to teach you water walking, I want you 2 to train on your own and see how good Sora is. After this mess is cleared up we will ask him to come with us, so test him in ninja basics to see how far his future Junin has to go. After that, work on your physical training, then join us for tree walking." The next hour was Naruto testing Sora while I watched. The results showed Sora pretty much lacked physical strength but had a good deal of power using his ability. My chakra sensing could tell me had chakra, but how much I couldn't. Just that Sora was a good person. After an hour I left Naruto to give Sora basic physical training. While I went into the meadow for sword training. With each swing of my sword I began to feel more connection to it. Finally, after 7 hours of training I ran out of steam and passed out. The next I was seemingly in my mind to see a pure white copy of me standing in front of me and she said, "My name is underscore." I then asked her, "What was that last part? One couldn't hear you." The copy said, "You aren't ready to hear my name yet. I will tell you what I am, and that is half of the spirit of your sword and part of your spirit." I then asked, "What about the other half?" She then said, he and I take turns keeping that beast under control. That big fox is full of too much hate. He could make you go crazy if we don't keep watch. Maybe you will get to meet him later. That last short coma you had was me waking up due to meeting your special person. You knew that person in your last life, and meeting him in this world woke me up fully. It also seems he has his own tailed beast to match your fox. Your fox, from what I have learned from talking to him, is one of 10 counting your brother's half of him. There is a 1-tailed raccoon dog, 2-tailed cat, 3-tailed turtle, 4-tailed monkey, 5-tailed hippocampi dolphin horse, 6-tailed slug, 7-tailed winged beetle, 8-tailed oxen, and 9-tailed fox split into yin and yang. Your future boyfriend holds the slug as well as a spirit similar to me. Well, he is coming, so I will see you when you need to hear my voice. I then woke up in the field to see a boy with short black hair staring in my face, and when I raised my head our lips met in a brief kiss. With that kiss I felt a spark of something, and then I said, Rukia. As he said, Ichigo. Then we said in unison, how did you know my name? And then we said, I don't know, I just seemed to know it after the kiss. I then asked, did your sword tell you we used to know each other in our past lives? He just nodded, still red face and stunned yes. I then said to him, since we knew each other in the past, let's get to know each other in this life. I grew up in the Hidden Leaf Village with my mother and twin brother, what about you? He then replied, I spent my first few years in a small village outside the Hidden Mist with my twin brother until my father killed my mother and I killed him. After that I was raised by a rogue ninja named Zabuza. Then he picked up some herbs from the field and said, I have to go back to him. I hope we don't meet on the battlefield. Soon after that I found my brother passed out a little further than me and dragged him back to the house for Orihime to heal my brother. Once we got back, Sora said, he doesn't need much, just a little refresher. I then asked Sora, so how long before you had to stop working out? The shorter boy said, I only lasted 30 minutes. I am not in very good shape, but I will keep trying to get stronger. I then asked, would you like to come with us and train in the Hidden Leaf after we get this bridge done, Sora? He then said, Red Fac. Ed, if it is okay with your master, I am okay to leave when I am no longer needed here. After a week of taking turns training and guarding the bridge, Zabuza finally returned, this time bring the 2 fake Hunter Ninja, and my brother was passed out from overtraining at the house with Sora still there healing him. Then the voice of my sword said, one of those is Rukia. Before I could say anything, Rukia said, I am sorry we met on the battlefield, now let's see who is better with swords. The two of us then clashed swords as I felt like us fighting wasn't right with each strike. On the other side of the battlefield, Sakura was staying next to the old bridge builder, Sasuke was fighting Rukia's brother, and Kakashi was fighting Zabuza. It wasn't long into each battle that Naruto and Sora came with Naruto to joining the fight, with Sasuke versus Rukia's brother and Sora joining Sakura in defense of the old man. After a few attacks, Rukia dropped his sword and said, I can't keep fighting seeing your face. IWILL join you in fighting Zabuza and Goto, then stay by your side. Right after Rukia admitted defeat, I heard a male voice in my head saying, Ichigo, your brother is summoning his beast's chakra. I can tell because your beast is stirring as well. I then asked, are you the other spirit? The voice said, yes, she and I share the same vessel, but when you learn our names we will divide. The other one is keeping the fox from sending you into a rage as well. Then I saw a boy crash out from the ice dome as Rukia said, Haku. But before Rukia could go to his brother, he ran to Zabuza, who was held by dogs. Before Kakashi could hit Zabuza, Haku jumped in the way of Kakashi's jutsu, killing boy. Rukia then shouted his brother's name as I held him and said, you promised to help fight Goto and stay by my side, so I won't let you die. Then I saw my teacher break the dark-haired man's arms. To our bad luck, right after Zabuza was unable to fight, Goto arrived with an army of samurai. The short man in suit then ordered his samurai to kill us all, and Zabuza said, if you give me a weapon I will take out Goto and as many of these men as I can. I then tossed the tall man a kunai and he ran to Goto, killing the man and a few dozen samurai. After seeing the man die first, I heard the voices of my sword saying, your rage is spiking, your power, our name is Zangetsu. I then said, break the sky, Zangetsu. Then Rukia said, "Dance Sota no Shirayuki." Both our swords then changed, mine into a larger blade in my right hand and smaller blade in my left, and Rukia's changed into a white blade with a ribbon at the end. I then swung my blade down using a wave of chakra to take out half of the army, and Rukia swung his down, taking the other half out with ice. With the battle finished, the rest of the village joined and started working on the bridge as Rukia. Then I passed out. After a week of sleep, Rukia, Sora and my team went back to the hidden leaf with me, wondering what my mother would say when I checked back in. Chapter end. The next chapter I will deal everybody's reactions to the team returning back to the village and setting up for the Chunin exams. Next updates will be week of June 19th 16 Blade Pre. NCE Academia week of June 26th 16 Love and Dueling. Week of the 3rd of July 16 Sage of Britannia week of the 10th of July 16 Bleach Love Ru week of July 17th 16 Exorcist X Hunter. Chapter 2. Love in Past, Present and Future. Chapter 2 Te. Ams and Exams. This chapter will cover Kushina's reaction to Ichigo's new team, as well as who her Junin will be and what tricks they will use on the Chunin exams. Biju, Zanpakuto. Normal. Ichigo Pav. After a few days we made it back to Konoha, and guards said to me, "Who are these people, venerable daughter and son?" Then pointed at Sora and Rukia. I pointed to the light brown-haired boy and said to them, "This is Sora Inoue. He has a Kekkei Genkei that I named Fairy Release. He releases fairies from his hairpins and reject damage, things in front of a barrier and things from the inside out." Then I pointed to the black-haired boy and said, "This is Rukia Yuki. He possesses both Ice Release and a sentient sword like mine. Both boys are loyal to me." The guard then said, "You will have to check them in with torture and interrogation force and see Madam Hokage." I then dropped the boys with T and I as Naruto followed to make sure they didn't do anything to me. After dropping the boys off, I said to Naruto, "You know we can't hide from each other. Our Biju are two halves of the same beast, one can tell where the other is at all times." My brother said, "I know, but I wanted to see if you would be distracted by your pretty boys giving Google eyes." I then said to my brother, "It is more than just a crush like you have on Sakura. It is like I knew both of these boys before I was born. Don't worry about boys stalking me until you talk with the girl stalking you, Naruto." He then said, "What do you mean stalker?" I said, "The purple-haired Hyuga girl." I then shout, "Hinata, where are you?" The girl then came out of the bushes and I told her, "Meet Naruto at our house, I will cook my best ramen." She then shuddered and said, "I can come to your house." I said, "Sure, I am cooking a pot for my new friends." I then grabbed my brother and said, "We have to report to Mom." After a walk to her office, I made Naruto stand in front of Mom's office, knocked and said, "We are here, Mom." Before Naruto could react, he got caught in the water trap outside the office. I then said to her, "Naruto might not read that much, but I looked into your classic traps, Mom." She said, "Okay daughter, tell me about these boys you found." Kakashi said in his report, "The three of you look at each other in strange ways." I said, "Okay Mom, when I see Rukia and Sora I feel like I knew them at first glance, and with Rukia I think I might love him." She then said to me, "Does my daughter have a crush or something more?" I replied, blushing up a storm, "I think we are soulmates." My mom replied, "Wow, that close. Not even your father and I were that close. I grew to love him over time. Have you two kissed to confirm it?" I said, "Kissed? I haven't even considered that." My mom then said, "Ibiki and Inoichi cleared the boys and confirmed they will do anything for you. To the extent both want to marry you. So they are both going to be your team and your fiancés." She then shouted, "Come in, Anko." Once the purple-haired woman came in, my mouth. R said to her, "I have a team of 3 genin for you." The purple head said, "Who and how long?" My mother replied, "My daughter and her team of fiancés. If you have to ask both the shinobi and civilian cells did it to further the Uzumaki bloodline as well or expand on it, as you know those new boys she brought have powerful rare bloodlines, as well as the fact I can count my clan mates on one hand, and that is from Jay Araya and his spy network. Hell, I am surprised Naruto doesn't have a few fiancés himself by now." I then said, "Rukia is like Naruto and I as well." The older redhead then asked, which beast? I said, I think 6 tails. That is what Yin Kurama told me. Then she asked, what are the two sides like? My reply was, I don't think Naruto has got Yang to talk back yet, but Yin is an asshole. Did dad know which baby got which side? My mother said, I am not sure, I was passed out. If he was dying your dad might have just put each half in without being able to tell. I then asked her, how long do I have to marry and pop out kids? My mother replied, you have a while. You can wait till you are 18 if you want, but that is the limit. From what my mother told me, Uzumaki women are able to have children with more than a single man at once. Another thing to know about having the fox inside you is every time until somebody removes the fox will be like your first time. I finally lost my virginity for good after it was taken out of me. I then replied, you mom, I am not asking, and don't tell me how you discovered that. Over the next month Sora, Rukia and I trained with Anko in her favorite training ground, the Forest of Death. We soon discovered each other's strengths and weaknesses. The major weakness of the team was Sora. He was mostly not a fighter and used his fairies for combat and healing. It was to his misfortune that Anko picked on him. Once the month was done, Anko told us, remember what, this training ground and Ibiki both could be related to the exam. The next day my team met both my brother's teams as well as the other teams of our class. The last team I recognized was the top team of the class before us, Team Guy. It had a surprising member, Rock Lee, a boy that Hin Ada told me had Charka nods so underdeveloped, all Lee could do was open his inner gate. When I told Sora, he asked Lee, do you want me to fix your chakra issue? Lee replied with, maybe if I complete the exams. There isn't enough time for me learn how to use them fully. His teammate Neji then asked, how could you repair Lee's nods? Many medical ninjas have tried and failed. I then replied, for so raw, my fiancé doesn't heal, rewinds time and then rewrites things. It isn't healing jutsu he uses but fairy release. Then Ino asked, what the hell is fairy release? Sora said, I am not really sure what it is myself. Until he died my older sister had this power. Then I had it after her. Tenten then asked, what happened to her? The light brown hair boy looked down and said, she got sick and died before I fully mastered my powers, and she said Mama and Papa were killed in the bloodline purge. Rukia then said, the Hokage of Hidden Mist went insane and decided kill everybody with a bloodline after a stupid clan tried to kill him. The Yuki clan was also among them. Choji then asked, what can your clan do? My dark-haired fiancé made an ice crystal and said, ice release, but I was even more special than my younger brother and have a sentient sword like Ichigo does. Tenten then beamed and said, sentient swords can I see? I face-palmed and whispered to Rukia, don't let Tenten know about special weapons, she is a weapon freak. I then told her, if you want to see them you have to watch us as the exams progress. My Junin sensei said exam has a combat portion most of the time. Tenten Thn asked me, does that mean your Junin is one of the examiners? Rukia paused. Anko knew Ichigo was bad at lying, so she made sure if Ichigo said too much I would talk, and when Tenten asked I said, we can't say any more about the exam. Once we entered the building my Biju said, there's a genjutsu ahead, you could use either my power or your sword's power. I then asked in my head, which would cause less trouble? The slug said, if you divide the work with your fiancé or even between all 3 members would be easiest. I then pulled out my sword and said, Tenten, here is a glimpse of what it can do. I then slashed the genjutsu and Ichigo said, I could have helped. As the genjutsu broke, we then made our way into a room with ninja from the Hidden Leaf among the other villages, and I noticed no ninja from the Hidden Cloud or Mist and a single team from Hidden Rock and from the Hidden Sand, as well as a few from villages I did recognize. Then a boy in glasses came toward us and said, you must be Ichigo's new team. My name is Kabuto Yakushi, would you mind telling me where you two are from? I then replied, info for info. Why aren't the other major villages here, and what can you tell us about the teams from the Rock and Sand? He replied with, the Mist is still recovering from their civil war and barely has any able-bodied genin, and the Cloud wasn't invited over a recent kidnapping. I think he Rock and Sand sent teams to test the waters for potential alliances. Your turn. My reply was, Sora and I are refugees from the Mist Village, both survivors of the Bloodline Purge. It wasn't long until a few fights almost broke out that the first examiner came in and said, break up the first exam as non-combat, if you'll pass you can fight in the other 2 exams. I then recognized the voice as IB. Iki as he said, follow me to the examination site. We then were guided to a room with papers on each desk, and the bald man explained he had to answer questions and not get caught cheating, but wouldn't get an auto-fail for getting caught. Then would be give a 10th question after an hour. Once we were told, everybody flipped the paper and started our tests. Ichigo and I combined knew the questions and shared information via our sword spirits, with Sora getting the answers using his fairies. Then after the time passed, Ibiki revealed the last question, which Naruto convinced most of the others to stay for and pass. After that, Anko came in the room, took us to the Forest of Death, saying to Ichigo, Sora and I, you'll better make Chunin want to be your sensei forever. Once we made it, a few Chunin were having us sign waivers that they weren't reasonable for if we die in the Forest of Death. It wasn't long that we made it inside the forest that we found another team of Konoha Genin and forced them to give us their scroll. After Ichigo guided us through a path she found during training, and we made it to meeting spot 4 days early. Once we opened the scrolls, Anko came out and said, good job making it here and so early. I guess you'll figured out the path during training and avoided those sand and rock ninjas. The rock team all had me worried, they were staring at you any chance they could. After remembering the rock team of a blue-haired boy with cat features, the pink-haired boy with glasses, and the tan girl that was mostly covered up, I then asked Anko, what do we do for the next few days? She said, since you are the first here, you get the best room, do what you want within reason. She then asked Ichigo, is your anti-pregnancy seal still there? My fiancé said, yes. Why is that important? The purple-hair woman said, you can fuck all you want then. She said, you don't get to fuck again cause the Hokage wants everybody to gather and prepare for the next round. Once down my mother gave a speech saying too many people passed and we had to do a preliminary to decide who can become Chunin. There were 13 standing and a roulette that choose pairings for fights. When it spun, the first fight was Ichigo Uzumaki versus Grimmjow Jaegerjackez, who then said to Ichigo, if I win you will be my mate. Chapter end. The next chapter will cover the entire next round of the exam including the break. Updates are, week of the 11th of September 16 Fullmetal Girl in New World, week of September 18th 16 Love and Dueling. Week of September 25th 16 Bleach Love Ru, week of the 2nd of October 2016 Exorcist X Hunter. Week of the 9th of October 16 Fullmetal Girl in New World. Chapter 3, Love in the Past, Present and Future. Chapter 3, Exams Continued. This will cover the events of the first round fights and as well as Ichigo and her team's training. I will give Rukia and Ichigo the same trainer. This story will touch on Naruto and his team but vaguely Ichigo Pav. I said to the blue-haired boy, fuck no. I already have 2 husbands, I don't need a third. With that comment I could feel the QB chakra well up in me. The protector then coughed through an explanation of the rules, then let us fight. I began to fight by punching the boy and cracking his bony jaw. I then hit him with a punch-kick combo, sending the boy flying. As I kept attacking until the boy locked bloody and my mother said, give Ichigo the fight. If this keeps up she could unleash the QB fully on this boy and kill him. Grimmjow then said, I could go another few rounds. My mother came down and said, shut the fuck up boy, unless you could deal with a raging QB that could burn your skin of. Don't even keep trying, your mate comment sent her into a rage. My mother then put a seal over the QB seal on my stomach and said to me, no more fighting until you learn control. I will start your training after the fights. Naruto then said, what about me mom? Her reply was, I have a teacher for you that is much less advanced than my training, you aren't as gifted as your sister. After the fight I talked with Naruto and he asked, what did you mean you have 2 husbands and what did mom mean you were more advanced than me? I replied, I am married to both Sora and Rukia, we will have a formal ceremony after the exams. Before you asked, I am not a virgin but won't show it. Ask mom if you want to know what that means. Also I won't be giving you any nieces or nephews anytime soon. Kunoichi are given a birth control seal at the academy. My brother then asked, how long will you have it? I replied, my goal is to try and reach Junin first. It wasn't long after our talk that the next match was declared with Sasuke Uchiha vs. Yoroi Akato. Two Konoha ninja facing off. Yoroi had power to absorb chakra and Sasuke had most of his chakra ninjutsu sealed to a seal to control another seal by Orochimaru. Sasuke then finished the man off using taijutsu. It wasn't long after an Anbu came to me and said, after the matches are done come to the Hokage's office. The next match was Rukia vs. Shino Aburame. My fiancé ended the match pretty quick, overpowering Shino's bugs with his ice jutsu and kenjutsu. The Aburame clan's bugs couldn't stand up to elemental jutsu or Rukia's graceful kenjutsu style. The next match was between Masumi Tsurugi from Konoha vs. Kankuro of Suna. The Suna ninja won the fight using a puppet. The next fight was Sakura Haruno vs. Ino Yamanaka, both kunoichi-s. How much they better than had got over time, but shown neither really focused on training, and the match ended in a double knockout. The next fight was Tenten of Konoha vs. Tamari of Suna. The GHT showed again that elemental jutsu trumped using large amounts of weapons with Tamari whining. The next fight was Shikamaru Nara vs. Sora, but before the fight Sora gave up because he didn't want to fight Konoha ninja. The next fight was Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kiba Inuzuka. The fight started with Kiba's ninja dog transforming into him for double Kiba. The dog transformed ninja and Inuzuka were beating on Naruto. I was betting my brother worked on his elemental jutsu and taijutsu. He soon tried using smoke but didn't relieve. Kiba had a good sense of smell and continued getting beaten. The big thin G that was saving my brother was the QB healing factor. I then asked Hinata, is there something wrong with my brother? The timid girl then asked, why ask me? I asked, because you can use your Byakugan to see chakra. I know he should be doing better than this. She then said, Byakugan. Then looked Naruto's way and looked back at me to say, your chakra systems are different right now, normally they are pretty much the same, but Naruto seems to be having issues tapping his chakra. Naruto then made more smoke to confuse Kiba with 2 layers of transformation. Then he used a well-timed fart to overload Kiba's nose and use a taijutsu combo for the win. After the fight, Hinata gave Naruto special medicine to help heal him, but my brother didn't figure the girl had a crush on him and she was too shy to say it to his face. When the roulette spun again, the next fight has Luffy Antenor vs. Choji Akamichi. The fight went to Luffy, but right after the fight, Grimmjow forced his team to leave the EXAM due to being pissed off with my victory. Then the next fight was Hinata Hyuga vs. Nage Hyuga. I then told the timid girl, if you win it will impress my brother. That made the girl both stutter and gave her the desire to win. The two clashed using their Byakugan eyes active and using their gentle fist fighting styles. It wasn't long that I discovered Neji was much better than his cousin, and I went over to his Junin and asked her, why does it seem like Neji has a grudge? The Genjutsu mistress replied with, I don't know the full details, but their clan is divided into main and branch clans. And Hinata is the main and Neji is branch. Then Neji's Lee chimed in and said to me, Strawberry Princess, Neji dislikes the main clan and wants to prove he is better. I know he hates the main clan but never learned why. I then said to him, refer to me as Strawberry or Princess again and I will remove your balls. I am pretty sure I can keep up with your speed and can use elemental jutsu. Then, before he could reply, the final match was declared as Gaara vs. Rock Lee. The match was the ultimate defense of Gaara's sand jutsu versus the ultimate offense that was Lee's taijutsu. Lee was doing fair. Lee decent but wasn't able to really touch Gaara due to his sand. I then went over to a man that looked like an adult version of Lee and remembered his name was Guy and asked the man, why doesn't Lee you say elemental jutsu fire or water should be able to destroy the sand shield? The brushy brow man answered, Lee isn't nearly that gifted, like you princess. Lee was born with an underdeveloped chakra system and can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu. So Lee overcompensated with pure taijutsu. He is the strongest unassisted genin in terms of pure strength and speed. Lee took off weights and released inner gates but still wasn't winning. Lee then used his final jutsu but Gaara still won out and broke Lee's arm and leg. After the fight was done, it was announced we would have another month between the preliminary fights and due to all the people that would have to be invited. The first thing that happened was Naruto and I meeting our mother. When we went to her office she said to Naruto, "What is wrong with your chakra? Did that snake or somebody working for him do something?" My brother said, "Some freaky looking lady touched my stomach and I passed out. Since then I haven't been able to summon my chakra right." My mother then said, "Son and daughter, watch what I am doing. This is your next Fuinjutsu lesson, undoing seals." She then tore off my brother's shirt and said to him, "Try and summon your chakra, Naruto." When he did I noticed my brother's normal QB seal, then over it another seal. Then my mother said, "That snake was never good at Fuinjutsu. The only one he was good at was that said seal of his, and if you have to ask we will try and work on that later." Then she fingers light up and she said, "5 element unseal." And then she said, "You should be good for now, Naruto." The next day I attended a meeting of the council and my mother told them she would like to try and remove the cursed seal. It was then put to a vote, and due to the civilians not wanting to risk the death of Sasaki voting down my mother. After the meeting my mother said to Naruto, "I have a teacher for you and you can get a better teacher if you find him and convince him to teach you." My brother said, "Will Kakashi or you teach me?" She said, "Sorry Naruto, but for the kind, since you didn't pay enough attention to your training in my damaged chakra system, I can only train 2 others, your sister and Rukia. I will have Ebisu teach you unless you can find your father's teacher." My brother said, "Uncle Jiraiya is town." She replied, "Yes, but you have to find and convince him, and if he turns you into a pervert I will have to beat you both." The training was mostly meditation, but we still couldn't figure out what our berserker state was about. With no luck at that point my mother trained us to her max. Turned out Rukia had a more elegant style than mine. It also turned out at night both Rukia and I were hearing voices in our dreams. It was like somebody was trying to talk to each of us. When I did meditate I started to hear a voice and Rukia said he heard a similar voice. Our next teacher was the same man that was our protector, Hayate Gecko. In between coughing fits that he said was from lung damage during the last war. The man was a master swordsman but had no idea how to merge kenjutsu and elemental ninjutsu. The man could use some elemental jutsu but never found somebody to teach him what he needed. With a week left Hayate had to be replaced by his fiancée Yugao Azuki. The purple-haired woman said, "He was killed and that made me relieved the next round might not go as planned." The oath, fact my mother said made Rukia and I think we might have to fight Gaara and even redo his seal. End of chapter. The next chapter will be the end of the exams. I will bring in Tsunade as well, but I am not sure if I will have her as Hokage or not. Most of the other fights will be different. I will also reveal the matches next chapter as well. Next updates will be Week of October 16th 16 Fullmetal Girl in Nei. W World Week of October 23rd 16 Love and Dueling. Week of October 30th 16 Shurumuyo. Week of the 7th of November 16 Fullmetal Girl in New World. Week of November 14th 16 Love and Dueling DxD. Chapter 4. Love in the Past, Present and Future. Chapter 4. End of the exams. This chapter will finish off the exams. It will cover the final battles and the battle between with Sand and Sound versus the Leaf. And cover the death of the former third Hokage. Normal speech Biju, spirit voice Ichigo Pav. When I asked my mother about the voices she said, "If I had to guess those are your tailed beasts." My grandmother told me she could hear the complete fox at times, but I never had the patience or focus or bravery to even attempt it. But if it's not your beasts it might be your swords. The Hyuga clan have told me those swords of yours are strange. I then said, "So you can tell us nothing?" My mother replied, "Pretty much you would have to ask older, more experience jinkuriki or maybe older summoning tribe members to get better answer. Your god Fath, the Toad Sage, is supposed to be training your brother. If you can find him, he knows much more than I do." I knew where Jiraiya would hang out, and that was the hot spring or the red light district to either peep or get with hookers. After a while of Rukia, Sora and I looking around the village we couldn't find him. Sora's shyness around the brothel made it even harder to look. So, I went with my next best lead in sensing my brother's chakra. The two of us could always find the other through our beasts each holding half of the 9 tails. Once I did, my group found Naruto over a pit and the old man writing. Then in another puff of smoke we were in swampy area and two toads said, "Welcome to Mount Myoboku, land of the toads." After looking around for a little, two short toads that looked like an old man and old lady greeted us. The male-looking toad then said, "I Fukasaku and this is my wife Shima. You must be important if Jiraiya had you reverse summoned here. So, what makes you so special?" I replied, "Do swords that are connected to use in our chakra systems count?" The toad then said, "You must be the Brats, the sage of the six paths talked about. We are supposed to teach you too how to use your Zanpakuto then." I then asked, "How do you know about our swords and why did you call them Zanpakutos?" The old female toad, "You kids don't listen at all, if you did they would tell you about their names and what they are called." The male toad then said, "That's because the sage of the six paths told the founder of the tribe you would come with swords of the death god and need to master them. I will tell you the first thing about them. Normal katanas are just the base state, they transform twice as you bond with them. I don't know how you are supposed to fully control the transformation but your Zanpakuto will tell you." Rukia then asked, "How do we talk to them and not just talk to our Biju?" The female toad then said, "That is an interesting issue. So, which beasts do you have?" I replied, "I have half of the 9 tails and my fiancé has the 3 tails. She then looked a little shocked and said, "Wow, you two got started early." I replied, "I have another fiancé that doesn't have a Zanpakuto either." She then said, "Follow me to the training area." We walked to a pond. The male toad said, "Show me your jinkuriki." Seals. We then lifted our shirts to reveal the seals on our stomachs to the toad. He then said, 5-element seal as his fingers glowed and I felt a source if chakra cut off then passed out. After what seemed like a few hours we woke up and heard the voice of the toad saying, "Sorry for the forceful sealing but we needed to block one path." Rukia then said, "What do we have to do next?" Shima said, "You dive into your minds and then to have to meet with the spirits of your Zanpakuto. The spirits are both a part of you and not, they want the same things you do but not on the surface. Now drink this and meditate." The male toad then gave us cup of disgusting tea and then I woke up in a city unlike anything I had ever seen. Shortly after I woke up, I heard a voice saying, "Ichigo, wake," toward my voice. I then noticed the voice was a lot like my own but distorted. I then asked, "Which way do I go? This city is so big." The voice said, "Look up, Queen." I then tilted my head up to see a pure white version of myself dangling from a flagpole. She then said, "Claiming up is your first test to learn my name." I then asked her, "If you can't tell me your name, what are you and why do you have my face?" She replied, "You know me, we have been together since your last life, UW. Araboy and Rukia and Sora were girls but we knew each other. I even kept your mother alive." I then thought, "So you are the spirit of my Zanpakuto." She replied, "Bingo, but you are half right, I am one spirit of your Zanpakuto. If you have to ask, most Zanpakuto only do have a single spirit but Rukia, yourself and a handful of others have 2 spirits." I then tried to climb up the building using my chakra and discovered I couldn't as it. The spirit then said, "That was the other guy's test, you don't need your chakra here, just climb, don't think about it." I then did as she said and I walked up the wall and toward her. She then said, "You passed the test. I will tell you my name. It's Zanjetsu. Since we are in a hurry I used the Kyuubi's power to increase your own enough to be able to hear me. Now wake up and prepare to use." I then asked her, "When can I learn more?" She said, "After you become a Chunin we can learn more." Then I woke up with my Zanpakuto in my lap to see Rukia waking up in the same way. I then asked him, "Did you learn your Zanpakuto's name as well?" He said, "Yes, but not much beyond that. He said we will need them in the next stage of the exam." The old toad said, "You spent a lot of time in your inner world, your exam starts soon." We then puffed back to Konoha to see a bunch of people sleeping in battle arena. Outside it was smoke and then a giant snakes attacking the village. After walking for a while we found Jiraiya fighting off some large snakes. When he was done, the white-haired man came to use and asked, "What took you so long?" Rukia said, "I am sorry but our swords wanted a lot of time to teach us and we barely made it back before our matches." The toad sage then said, "Well, you can still become a Chunin, In my day rank promotions were for achievements in war. So, if what you learned can help drive the sand and sound ninja from the village. I then asked, who the fuck are these sound ninja? The old man replied, they are ninja trained by Orochimaru. To my knowledge, he collected ninja with rare abilities scattered during the last ninja war. The man always wanted to master every jutsu, so my guess is he plans to take their bodies and do so. I then asked, where is the snake then? Jiraiya said, the snake is fighting the former third Hokage and your mother in that cube, and Naruto is fighting the one-tails jinkuriki. I then said, what about Sora? The old man said, he is with the other medical ninja. I then asked Rukia, so, did you figure out what your Zanpakuto specializes in? Rukia paused for a bit. If I had to guess, he was talking to his Zanpakuto. Then he replied, ice and water. My response was, since Gaara fights with sand, I was going to ask you anyway, but if your Zanpakuto can expand that power, you can help even more. We then looked to see a giant sand tanuki, and Rukia knew where to go. I then went toward the cube and I then said, cut the sky Zangetsu to see my Zanpakuto change from a normal-looking sword into a large hitless sword. But even with its size, the blade felt like it weighed less. I then tried to cut the barrier to see a slash hole that I could fit through. When inside, I saw my mother and former third Hokage fighting the second and first Hokages. Zangetsu then said, the former Hokages are zombies fused with souls of their hosts. If you use my blade to cut them, their souls will be purified and should be unable to be summoned again. Before I could attack, the third said, I will take them out. The old man then did the hand seals and said, dead demon consuming seal. Out of the sky then came what I could only guess was a Shinigami. Then Zangetsu said, so that's what the Shinigami of this wood looks like. The Shinigami then took the first Hokage, and before it could get the second, I slashed through him. The third Hokage went for Orochimaru and began to pull his pull out. The third was struggling and then asked me, Ichigo, could you please help me cut out his soul, or at least a part of it, before I die? I did as he said, but only managed to remove the fingers as the Shinigami ate both the third Hokage's soul and Orochimaru's fingering. After I did, the snake Sennin left as my mother recovered. Once she did, my mother said, that sword is pretty amazing. Is cutting souls all it can do? I said back to her, no, I am just beginning to see what it can do. Both Rukia and I are just barely touching their full potential. After the sound and sand ninja left, we had the funeral for the former Hokage. Only Shikamaru got a formal promotion to Chunin, but Rukia, Sora and I were on the watch list for promotion. Meaning Anko would watch us on missions to see if we were ready to become Chunins. Before Gaara left, my mother and I fixed his seal to make sure Shikaku wouldn't mess with him and let Gaara get a good night's sleep. Chapter end. I wanted to do more but didn't have time to do as much as I wanted to write. The next few chapters will be original or based on filler stuff for updates. Week of 3/1. 9/17 Love and Dueling DxD. Week of March 26, 17 Fire Emblem Grand Order. Week off the 2nd of April 17 Shadow Sage and Shinobi of Miracles. After week of the 2nd of April 17 vote on my poll for story to update. I am also looks for potential beta readers. Chapter 5. Love in Past, Present and Future. Chapter 5 Training with the Toad Sage and Finding Tsunade. This chapter will cover the hunt to find Tsunade training that comes with it. No. Rmal speak Jinkuriki, Zanpakuto speak Ichigo Pav. After everything was over, Sora was pretty overtaxed healing people and on the limits of his chakra. When I asked him about Lee, Sora's reply was, I couldn't get the Biju chakra. That stuff lingers in his wounds. Rukia, Naruto and you have adapted to heal, making you 3 easier to heal, but inside of Lee's wounds it is preventing correct healing. My mother then said, we need Tsunade then. She was my Junin and the best medical ninja in the world. If she can't do it, nobody can. If I am lucky and I can get her to take this job full time and give me the chance to train Naruto, Rukia and you. I then asked her, you would really stop being Hokage for us? The older redhead replied, it's not completely for you and your brother but for my extended family. If I can get Tsunade to replace me as Hokage, my plan is to take you on a trip to hunt down the rest of our clan and bring them back to the Leaf Village. The old man told me of a potential Uzumaki with Rinnegan eyes. And he also heard that Old Snake could have 2 or 3 of my kin in his employ. I felt one of them in his barrier even. The pervy sage agreed to take Naruto for a training trip and I will take your team on a family hunting trip. The last reason I want Tsunade here is she could be considered your great aunt. I then asked, how is that? My mother replied, she is the daughter of my great-grandmother Mito and the first host of the Kyuubi. My grandmother was sent to the Whirlpool village and Tsunade was kept in the Leaf village. I am sending Rukia, Naruto and you Ichigo to find her. I would send your teammate but he is too fatigued and more useful helping the injured and damaged buildings. You leave first thing in the morning. The next morning, Jiraiya woke me up and said, I will be teaching you 3 Minato's signature jutsu, Rasengan. I told you to buy those items as part of training. My brother then asked, how do these toys work for training? He then said to us, the balloon is for the first stage. You pop it with pure chakra rotation and no elemental jutsu. The second stage you use the rubber ball popping. You have to focus your chakra to break the ball open. The final stage 1 will explain after you finish the other 2 steps. If you need me I will be in the city. I then said, brothels. He said, no bars and gambling halls your great aunt loved to hang out at. Those and sadly I am not a sensor ninja. I then replied, Rukia and I both have sensory abilities. He said, you don't know her chakra signature and have to learn your father's jutsu. It didn't take long for Rukia and I to make it past the first step, since we had our sword spirits to help regulate our chakra. Zangetsu said to me, the spin pops the balloon and then the power spin should pop the ball. Before I moved on to the next stage, Naruto looked like he was having trouble so I said to my brother, put more than a single mind to it. The true secret of the solid clone is they allow you to experience things from many angles and many vantage points. I have had lots of fun using only 2 clones and the boys. He then blushed and replied, I didn't need to know what my sister does with her fiancés. I said, you could experience similar things if you focused on your stalker over titless pink girl. The Byakugan princesses followed us all the way to the edge of the village. Then F'd Naruto the mull over things himself as Rukia and I were about to we felt 2 pretty large chakra sources. One very large and the other kind of like Sasuke. I then ran to find the Toad Sage, found him in the arms of 2 women and said, I think Itachi and somebody with near jinkuriki chakra levels is coming and they are full of malice. He replied, wow you are a good sensor. Then I sensed another, and felt Sasuke incoming as well and said, Emo Duck Butt Hair is coming as well. It wasn't that much longer that Rukia came to us dragging Naruto in tow and said, Itachi used his eyes on Naruto and tried to use them on me but failed. Jiraiya then asked, why didn't Tsukuyomi work on Rukia but brought down Naruto? Rukia then said, we don't have long till the man with blue skin and Itachi get here. As he finished talking they broke into the room. Itachi then said, time to try to see if the dark-haired boy shares more in common with the other half of the Kyuubi jinkuriki. He then did the upper hand signs and his eye changed as I was memorized. Next thing I knew I was in a stake about to be stabbed until the Zangetsu appeared and said, boy if you get any closer I will have to do something. He then shot a gaze at her and she replied, in here even the Magikyo isn't worth shit. If you manage to stab my master she might evolve even further. Then she pulled out a copy of her Blade S. Elf about to stab the Uchiha eye as he said, too much trouble. Then the blue-skinned man said, Itachi we have to leave the old man summoned something that I am not sure I could escape with just my water jutsu. I then looked down and noticed a pasted out Sasuke next to me as Jiraiya said, don't move I summoned a something to take out those 2. It wasn't much longer that my brother woke up and Rukia left with the old man. When I caught up we found hole in the stomach summon covered in black flames. It took a sealing scroll to get rid of the flames as our party left to keep looking Tsunade. We made it to the next town with no luck so rested and trained up a little more. The next morning Naruto managed to complete the first and second steps and all 3 of us came to the Toad Sage asking for tea. He final step and his reply was, the next stage is control, you have to keep the chakra rotating inside the balloon and not pop it. The final part combining all 3 steps into a ball of compressed chakra and ramming it into a target. Before we started training, our stop was a tavern to get food. The thing that happened during that visit was that we found the other Sennin and assistant. I then said to her, "My mother wants you back to Konoha to take over as Hokage." The older woman that looked around the same as my mother said, "Who is she and why would I come back for her?" The reply my brother gave was, "Kushina Uzumaki, and she needs to go on a training trip to restore the Uzumaki clan." The blonde before me then said, "Does that mean you girl are Ichigo and the blonde next to you is Naruto?" I replied, "Yes I am." She then asked, "Is that black?" Before we left, the village Orochimaru came and tried to convince Tsunade to help, but with my brother mastering the Rasengan we scared them off. When we returned to the village I could tell Sasuke wasn't happy about his brother being defeated and might even seek out the Orochimaru for power. Chapter End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.